Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode 21 of In the Red Corner. It's a new year. We're back, better than ever. My name is Matt Hilton, and I'm joined as ever by Mr. Grant Winstanley. We're here to talk footy and fight sports. How are you, sir?
Great, mate. Fantastic. Happy New Year to you, and
to you.
Good to be back, mate. It's going to be a big year for sport, I think. A very big year.
It is. It's been last year was a weird one, wasn't it? And it was almost a miracle in some senses that it kept going, but it kept us going as well. Mm-hmm. So we're all very thankful for sport, and I'm glad we can get in here and chat about it.
That's it.
I feel like this episode, it's or this time of year as well now, it's that big breath in before the madness kind of kicks off again. Mm-hmm. The festive kind of period, especially in football, was hectic, as it always is. The UFC's taken a bit of a break, fight sports has taken a bit of a break, and we're now it's that time to kind of collect your thoughts before the year kicks off again. Yeah. So today it'd be good to have a little review of what happened over the festive period, mm-hmm. and then look ahead to what next year is going to bring us, especially in the UFC, because we've got from the 16th, we'll go again, we'll fight Ireland, and we're off again. And I mean, sticking with football to start with, the festive period, it's a bit mad. It's congested football, and so much has changed in that little period as well. We've lost the first manager, kind of just before that festive kind of period kicked in, and with Bilic being let go from West Brom. We've spoken at length over the last couple of weeks about which managers. There's been so many struggles. Ollie was under pressure. Arteta was under pressure. Lampard's now under pressure. And I think my opening question to you is, who's not going to survive this year? Who'll still be around? Oh, sorry, who won't be around by the end of the season? Because there's been a lot of ups and downs. And what's interesting is that where we've written people off, they've seemed to have survived somehow. Yeah. They've come through it, they've turned it around, and hats off to them. But surely with everything going on, there's going to be more casualties this year.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned it, Lampard. I don't think will.
You don't think he'll cut it?
I don't think he'll survive the season.
Why not? What makes him different than Ollie? What makes him different than Arteta? Because we've said that about both of those already this year. Yeah, and they've survived. Yeah,
I would say, obviously Lampard got the job, only being 12 months at Derby.
Yeah.
Of course. Oh, an okay job. He took them from 6th to 6th. I think with the players that he had, he should have got them promoted. Again, I think they found a bit of a spot and a bit of a lull, and he never seemed to kind of recover. But I would say it's more about Chelsea as a club. They are very trigger happy when it comes to managers.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think that helps. And the other thing for me is the money you spent puts the target on your back.
That's huge. If you can't bring that side together, it's something that's going to go against him is the talent that he does have in his squad now. Yeah. Talented young players, and if you can't bring them together and get them playing in a way that allows them to compete, given the amount that they spent.
Because he did a good job last year, 4th.
Yeah.
He did a good job. However, looking now and the current position kind of Chelsea are in and signings and different things, all this 200 million, whatever they spent, will probably just about get them 4th.
Possibly.
There's no guarantee.
No.
So they've it's kind of as you were, but 200 million down the drain.
Does Lampard being Lampard, being a Chelsea legend, does it buy him more time than someone else would be afforded?
No, I don't think it will.
Just
because it's Abramovich.
Yeah.
If Jose Mourinho can get sacked twice from Chelsea, given what he did for them, I think anybody can, under Abramovich's reign, I think anyone can be, Roberto Di Matteo. I know he's not a legend as much as Frank Lampard, but I think Chelsea fans pretty much liked Roberto Di Matteo as a player. Yeah. But doesn't mean anything. It's No,
it doesn't buy you time. But how much time does he have? Because they are struggling. We should preface this by saying we thought Ollie was toast numerous times this year.
Yeah.
And, look where you are now. All of a sudden, it's like there was a bit of a haze kind of below that, the top 2 or 3 in the Premier League. And all of a sudden, a few of these teams now are emerging out of this fog. And it was like, how did United get here? I don't know. All of a sudden, the second, with the chance to go top, really, next week if they turn Liverpool over.
Yeah.
And the same with Arsenal. There was, they were staring down the barrel of the relegation zone not that long ago. And I think maybe it's this season as well, is the fact that there's a lot of points being dropped, isn't it? And I guess that no one's run away with it, which they have in periods. So there's not that big of a gap.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, if you can string a couple of good results together, which Arsenal have done now, Lacazette seems to have found his shooting boots.
Yeah. As
soon as you put those results together, all of a sudden it seems bright and rosy again, doesn't it? And I suppose that can still happen with Chelsea.
Yeah.
But it's got to happen soon because, like you say, they're probably more ruthless than the rest of the clubs.
And I still don't think, with the money he spent, I still don't think he knows halfway through the season, I still don't think he knows his best team.
Which is a problem.
Is it Pulisic? Is it Ziyech? Is it Werner? Is it Havertz? Is it Abraham? Is it Giroud?
Yeah.
It feels as though like kind of that front 6 interchange every single week.
Yeah.
It's never the same one. It's as if he doesn't know who it is. And kind of, for me, the player that doesn't get any respect is Olivier Giroud. What he's done throughout his career, and second all-time goal scorer of France. Majority of the goals he scores are off the bench.
Yeah,
it's
it was the same with Arsenal, wasn't it, as well?
I know, and it's like there's never. So again, he's he's the easy fall guy, and it's like, well, is he playing better than Werner at the moment? Yeah,
I would say so. Yeah.
So he's got some big decisions to make, and like you say, Chelsea don't often give you time, so he's got to do. Turn it around quick.
Yeah. But should anyone else be fearing for the job, do you think?
Well, one which we've discussed and we've kind of said, don't be trigger happy on this one. And he's kind of have got away with it in all of this. Yeah. And I'm sure you'll know it. It's obviously Chris Wilder.
Yeah.
But it comes to a point, he's got to be very careful. Because it gets to a point, I know he's a Sheffield United fan. What they did last year was unbelievable. But at the end of the day, sport is, what have you done for me lately? That's all. And if they can make a change and this manager can keep them up, it's a business decision. They have to stay in the league. You have to make a decision, whether you like him or not.
Staying in the league is imperative, especially now, especially on the back of COVID and the amount of money that people have lost due to lack of crowds and all this kind of stuff. Going down would not be good right now. You don't want to go down this year. And, West Brom have pulled the trigger, didn't they? They've gone and got the perennial keeper-upper with Sam Allardyce. I don't know who else is fishing around there that might take over at Sheffield United if they did pull the trigger. What's Harry Redknapp doing?
Bilic.
But you can bring Bilic. But, someone who was in the relegation zone already. Do you want to bring him in? I don't know. But, you are right. I think he's got to be very careful as well. He could be living on borrowed time if he can't pick up some points. Yeah, because they don't play bad football either. They're just not getting results.
No, they haven't. The thing with them is they're not scoring goals.
No,
and they signed Ryan Brewster, as you know, for 25 million. He's not starting games. They're another one that kind of changed the front two. They keep changing kind of the wide players. You never know whether it's going to be Mousse, whether it's going to be McGoldrick, whether it's going to be Burke, whether it's going to be Brewster. They're always interchanging and they need goals.
Yeah,
and
need a bit of stability, don't they? And
it makes you wonder, not to say he was obviously, and going the other way, how important was Dean Henderson to Sheffield United?
Clearly quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think speaking of not scoring goals, we should do it.
Well, I'll introduce this one.
With pleasure.
Yeah. New year, I would have said, normally I would have said same old Liverpool the way it's been, but I don't know what, Klopp has done, or you've obviously not been on Santa's, nice list this year. What has, talk me through this Liverpool change throughout the festive period. It's
mad, isn't it? Because under Klopp, Liverpool, we've tended to go on these mad runs. It's always been over the festive period.
Yeah.
And also, traditionally, or just by chance, we've had quite tough runs of games. The last 2 seasons where we just came short, and then last year when we won it, both times we've had real tough festive periods where, you get to the end of November, beginning of December, and you look at the games and you're like, oh, if we can get a couple of wins out of it, and you come through with a decent point haul, we'll be pretty happy with that. And then both times, I think we've won every game. We've just gone clean through, absolutely firing on all cylinders through the festive period with tough fixtures. This year, we actually had really favourable fixtures throughout the whole period, and we've struggled. We've struggled big time, and I don't know what it is. I think partly it's down to these injuries now starting to take its toll on the squad, and I don't mean in the sense of like the individual players that we're missing. I think it's more the effect that it has on the team as a whole, because everyone is moving positions. You've got our 2 first-choice centre-backs who aren't playing, both are long-term injuries. So you're playing Fabinho, who's arguably your best midfielder. You're playing him out of position next to a young lad who is playing way more often than he should be. Reece Williams playing back-to-back games in the Champions League and in the league. You've got what's the other fella's name?
Phillips. Yeah.
Nat Phillips coming in, doing a job where he can, horses for courses against certain teams that don't particularly want to play football. He does a job there, clearing his lines and all that kind of stuff. But what it does is it's dragging Fabinho into where he's looking after them. He's played a new position, which he's doing a good job of. In the last game against Southampton, we saw Henderson being dragged into that mix. He's not a centre back, and he's doing a job there. He's doing his best. As always, he's giving it 100%. But he's not a natural centre half. And then what that does is the effect on your midfield is you're missing your 2 best midfielders, but ideally you'd want them both playing in the centre of that midfield. You're then kind of cobbling together. Yes, we're good players, but not that particularly fit the system we want to play. So the other day we had Chamberlain, who's been out injured for a while. Thiago's been out injured for a while. Both of them didn't look up to speed. Playing with Wijnaldum again, who's used to having that a set role in that midfield, and he's now shifted to the other side, playing a different role. And then I suppose that also has an effect on the front 3, who aren't getting that same service, who aren't getting the same balls coming forward. And I also think they maybe it's nothing to do with anything else, but they do look a bit stale. It's not, throughout the team, it's not lack of effort. Again, you just look to the recent game against Southampton. We didn't stop. We didn't let up for 90 minutes. We conceded in the first minute. We effectively played 90 minutes, 1-0 down. Didn't play well, but never gave up. We just couldn't create any legitimate goal-scoring chances, and then we didn't look like converting anything either. There was a half chance. I don't know what the reason for that is. I think, but again, injuries. You've lost Jota out here now, who would be the one that's coming in and freshening up that front 3. I think they've just got a bit stale, and they need someone. They need something. They need fresh legs in there. They need fresh ideas. They need fresh movement. They need something. They need to be challenged. They need to be able to have that fear of being dropped, and someone else coming in. So there's a lot of things that have just culminated in 3 poor results: draw at West Brom, draw again at Newcastle, goalless draw, and the defeat to Southampton, which now, and I'm moaning about this, and we've come through the Christmas period. We're still top of the league. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it's 3 fixtures there that, in hindsight, again, in a season like this, if you get putting 3 wins on the board there, which you should be, we're off, we're flying. People are already saying it's a done deal, isn't it?
Do you think it's a case of, when you say about new ideas, is it, the essence of a plan B, or is it sides have worked you out now and how you can play?
There's an element that I think even the last couple of weeks now they've seen how we're playing, and they've seen that I think that front 3 are a little bit off the pace, and what that is then encouraging them to do is maybe playing a yard higher. The back 4 is a yard higher than normal, which it causes problems because we're always playing. Our front 3 play with the back to goal anyway. I'd like to see them have a run at the defenders. The quick players, the strong players, Salah, Mane in particular, the dangerous from everywhere, and Fabinho obviously just knits that together. But there probably is an element of that. That's a problem. When you're consistently winning and consistently good, everyone is trying to figure you out, and eventually they're going to do that, and that's where maybe in these games to come. We've got a game at the weekend against Aston Villa. I'd maybe like to see Klopp do something different, just try something out. Mainly because it triggers a bit of interest for the players on the pitch as well. Because it can't be very fun going through this whole period and just being, running your arse off. Again, it's not through lack of effort.
Yeah.
But just not seeing any results out of it. And it just must be bloody miserable for them.
Yeah. How do you think when, and we spoke about it with Henderson dropping into centre-back, and I know that one of them isn't registered, Phillips or Williams, but how do you think it makes them feel if, as a young central, as a young defender, if they go, a central midfielder's taking my position now? Do you think there's anything about that?
Nah,
Do they feel hurt by that?
No, I think both of them have played way more than they would have expected. Don't forget, Williams was at Kidderminster on loan last year, and Phillips I think he was out on loan in Germany.
Yeah.
And he's a bit older as well. I think he's maybe 23, 24. Yeah. I think they probably know the limits of their ability as well, and you've got they were coming up against someone like Danny Ings there. I don't think you're going to want Klopp's not going to want Danny Ings running at Reece Williams. Ideally, it's going to be a problem. I'm not sure what the thinking behind it was of putting Henderson in there. I'm not sure if it's just saving their legs, not burning them out, because you've already seen lads like Curtis Jones again, 19 years old. He's played way more than he probably should be, and now he's being given a rest, I think, and again it disrupts that midfield. But you run these lads into the ground, especially in games like this where they weren't expected to be playing this much. So I don't think it's going to hurt them. I just think it's horses for courses, and Klopp's trying to do the best with what he's got.
Well, I knew what type of game, and I even said to you when we caught up, thinking it might be a draw or something like that. So I knew it was going to be a tough game, Southampton. Yeah. And now I think about it, Henderson has dropped in there at centre-back. But for me, looking at that midfield three, James Milner has to start. Because he is the one, if Henderson isn't dictating play and getting the ball and flying into tackles, and it's all about that tempo and that speed in midfield. Yeah. I think Milner is the one that kind of should have been, instead, maybe if Ox and Thiago are off the pay or whatever it is, well, Milner should be an over Ox, and he should be the one firing them up and getting them going and getting the ball to the front three. And
I tend to agree. I always think if Henderson doesn't play, Milner has to play, because he's the one who leads by example, like what you're saying. I'm not sure what the reasoning is. It was his birthday. Maybe he was just giving him a birthday rest. I don't know. Not sure what the reason is. I think he's just trying to get minutes into people's legs as well, and maybe Klopp thought he could get away with it. Yeah. Maybe he was looking to move the ball quicker, relying on Ox to get forward a bit more than Milner might. Milner's not played a lot this year as well, so he's coming in a bit cold, and we saw him pull up the other week with an injury. I think that was a lot due to the fact that he's not been playing week in, week out, and maybe is more useful off the bench now. But he came on fairly late, wasn't able to get into the game. Trent, he had a...
What's his seat? I don't think people are talking enough kind of how bad of a... In terms of Trent level of what he's kind of set for himself now.
I mean, it's hard. He set the bar high.
Well, exactly, but...
There was a stat the other day that he gave the ball away something like 38 times, which is the most...
In 77 minutes.
But, when you're watching the game, and he's there, he's available.
Yeah,
he's putting a shift in. You've got to be on the ball, I guess, to be giving it away, and it's not what you want to do. He's had a stinker, and he'll probably hold his hands up to that. He's under pressure as well. Don't forget, he's probably looking, even though it's Jordan Henderson, his captain, he's probably got an eye on Henderson at centre back, being like, "I need to help you out here," or "I'm not sure what you're going to do." It just offsets you a little bit, and that's what I mean about these injuries. I don't think it's so much. It's not the individuals that we're missing; it's the effect that it has on the system that we're trying to play. But we do need a plan B, like you said, because we are where we are. And I think, one, teams are figuring it out, and two, because we've been so set and stable, so lucky over the last couple of years, with a lack of injuries, we've got this kind of one way of playing, which does steamroll everyone. But when you take a few of those cogs out of the works, and you no longer function in the same way, everything kind of falls apart behind you, doesn't it? And that's where we're at the minute. And I think that's why we've got these negative results. That's what I've got to say about that. It was a much merrier Christmas for you, man. Came from nowhere. Like I said, when I saw the table after your last result, and you crept up to second, and I'm like, where's this come from? Yeah. What's changed? I get what we've said. We had all these head on a chopping block numerous times this season. Has anything drastically changed, or do you think the results are just coming now that it's just kind of starting to settle into a way of playing?
It's interesting because I still don't think we're at that consistent level where, I can't remember the last game where we've actually played well for both halves.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of, we had this kind of, sequence where it was always conceding first or conceding two. I mean, we were 2-0 down against Southampton at Southampton, won 3-2.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of games where we're coming from behind, and the last couple of games, Eric Bailly's come to centre back, so he's fully fit. And he's always struggled to get 3 or 4 games in a row, similar to what Phil Jones has throughout his career. But Bailly's come into the team, and he looks, that speed that he has. He's an athlete. He's
Yep.
And that last minute block against Aston Villa,
sensational.
So I think, and the other change for me as well has been, he has been rotating kind of the couple of centre mids as well. So I know that it was kind of McTominay and Fred for kind of at the start of the season. It was kind of them two. But now he's tried to get a bit more kind of fresh legs. He's been rotating out kind of Greenwood, because Greenwood's been off it a little bit. So I think again, it goes back to maybe that competition for places. And, I know that I'm not his biggest fan at all, Paul Pogba, but he's actually, the last couple of games he's actually played really, really well. As if that hunger's come back, and it's as if to say, well, the damage is done. We know you're off.
Right. Does he just function better in a side that's, that's functioning better? Does he kind of become part of that? But he's never going to be one that's going to drag you out the shit, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's an element to that, and also because in the role he's now expected to at Man United. We've got Bruno now.
Yeah, right. So pressure's off him a little.
So it's kind of, you feed it to Bruno now. Yeah, you're alongside the defensive midfield. You're alongside a Fred or a McTominay or a Matic, and you're just doing that kind of that role, just feeding it like number 6, feeding it to Bruno, really. Whereas that used to be Pogba. So maybe, I don't know why he's all of a sudden decided to look hungry again and go, but
still no room for Donny.
Well. It baffles me. Obviously, Man United play Man City tomorrow morning in the League Cup. He's got to play.
Surely he's got to get a game.
He's got to get a game. Again, we talk about legs and freshening your legs up through this season and all that.
Yeah.
Donny van de Beek's hardly had any minutes, so
it is mad that
he'll be chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I thought he would have been straight to your side.
He was our biggest signing this year. But Ollie was saying this week about Donny van de Beek, and he kept saying about he's the big plan for kind of next year, and it's all about next year with him.
Right.
So maybe he's just doing that to keep kind of Van de Beek happy, or because we're not going to loan him out or anything. We signed him; he was our biggest signing this year.
Well, maybe he's there because I'm assuming Pogba's off. So
Probably.
Once Pogba's gone, you've got someone who just falls straight into his role there, maybe. And it's always good to have that succession plan in place, isn't it?
But in terms of results, we dropped points against Leicester, which I would have took a point at the start of the game.
Not a bad point to take, is it?
The way the game, we conceded in the last kind of 5-10 minutes when we could have saw the game out. It's those little things with Solskjaer, that tactical awareness and seeing the game out and that type
You've said it before, the in-game management, sometimes off.
Yeah.
I suppose that comes with experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. So there was that. The Wolves game wasn't a great game, but Wolves, in my opinion, I was disappointed with because they came to park the bus, really.
Yeah,
and
right.
The Man United of old, if that's one thing that you can say of Solskjaer in terms of the values of the club, never say die attitude, 93rd minute.
Kept going, yeah.
We keep going.
Yep.
And then it was Villa, which was a good result as well, 2-1, because Aston Villa are as good as anybody this season.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Yeah. We'll find out. We play them this weekend, the FA Cup, 3rd round, 4th round.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see how Liverpool approach that, actually, because you want the current side that we're that we're kind of having to play. You want to see them get a win. You want them to bounce back. You don't want to kind of drop everyone, do you, or make wholesale changes. You kind of want people to rally together and go again. But then at the same time, I think Klopp needs to try something different. He almost needs to see who else he can use. He's got Origi sitting on the bench there, which I think he's not played a part really at all, and it's whether he can try and galvanise someone like him. Minamino, we've not seen enough of again. It's will he give these lads a go and see what they can do? There's places up for grabs here. We need to freshen up, or does he just stick with that same side and say go again?
Is Keita injured?
Yeah, he's always injured, mate. He's always injured. I think again, great player, really effective when he's fit. Can't rely on him. Same as Matip. Brilliant. Can't rely on him. You can't have him in your ideal starting 11 because if you build a plan around that, it goes to shit every week. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Fair enough.
For Liverpool, I suppose I'm for United as well. I feel like the next 3 games are absolutely pivotal, especially if you look at the fixtures Liverpool have got. We've got to bounce back and claw our way out of this kind of negative festive period. If we can get through these next 3 fixtures now in the league, put some points on the board. For Liverpool, it's absolutely vital we put some points on the board. But we've got a tough run of fixtures. Come out the other side of that with some wins, with some points, top of the league. I think you can kick on then till the end of the season. If we struggle through this period, it's going to be really hard to claw anything back. We start off Liverpool United next weekend. And the good thing about this is there is a bit of a break for both sides, really.
Yeah.
More time than we've had in a long time.
We've got Burnley before.
I forget that you've got Burnley before that as well.
We play 9 games in January.
Yeah, right. We've got. Is that a game you're catching up on?
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. From the start of the season.
Yes, that's that first game. So, I mean, for Liverpool's perspective, then we've got this is the biggest break and probably the only break we'll have now until the end of the season. Because once we're back into it, it's league, Champions League for the rest of the season. Klopp's gonna have to get these lads on the training pitch, I guess, and figure this out, get us out of this slump before we come to United. Actually, no, sorry, you're coming to us. It's Anfield, isn't it? It's nice to see Liverpool United in a top of the table clash again. And as much as I'd love us to be home and dry, clear, on another march like we were last season, what is interesting now is that it's going to be a real competitive title running, I think, which is good. I mean, it's good if you come out of it on top, isn't it? But I'm interested to see a competitive running, which we've arguably not had in quite a few seasons now. There's always been someone or one or two teams that have run away with it. So Liverpool United, how are you feeling about it?
I think this fixture has come at the perfect time for Liverpool.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
Because if there's anybody that comes to your place and you need to raise your game and beat, it's us.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The team talk said it, does itself, doesn't it? Klopp doesn't have to say anything. It's
because we could be 3 points ahead in the league at this point. If we beat Burnley, we're 3 points in front.
Yep.
So then, if we beat you, we will be 6 points clear.
Yeah, and how the tables would have turned there.
And going into a Man United, I can't remember the last time where I was going into a Man United Liverpool game and we was in the lead in the league.
No. And it's really hard to say now, how you think, well, we'll touch on it again closer to the time because we'll record again before then. But it's really hard at this point, looking ahead at the next couple of fixtures, to see what side we'll be playing or what mind frame we'll be in. I've no idea where we'll be at because right now it's quite negative, and I think there's the attitude and the messages from the club that we know it's not good enough. We've just got to up our game and go again, and we've done that in the past. We've shown that you can rally from those. After the Aston Villa 7-2 defeat, you rally and you have a really good performance there against. Who did we play after that? I think Crystal Palace. We blew them away. So you rally and you pull yourself together, but I just don't know what the squad's going to look like as well, and if we're going to get anyone back through injury, what kind of shape the likes of Thiago is going to be in, if we're going to have anyone back from in the defence that we can then release Fabinho or Henderson. So it's hard to say how I think the game's going to play out. All I do know is that, like you said, it's absolutely vital for us that we come there, put a good performance in, and I think it is the perfect way to do it. United at Anfield. There's no better game to get up for, is there?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it'll be a feisty one. But we will break down, obviously, next week.
Yeah, we'll look at it more then, I think. And then looking ahead for Liverpool again, we've got Burnley at home, which again, it's another tough game because it's similar to those sides we've just played, your West Broms, your Newcastles like that, who are gonna be happy for us to have the ball and just keep coming at us. And we're just gonna, we're gonna sit quite deep. We'll try and catch you on the break. Maybe we've got to find a way around that, and that's where we've struggled recently. Hopefully, but we're coming into it on the back of a United victory. Yeah, and then we go to Spurs. Spurs again come to Anfield, which again they just look superb at the minute, and Kane, Son playing together. They're dangerous for everyone. United, and then followed by Spurs at home. It's the games that we've got to win at this point if we want to be within this title picture, and we want to have the confidence to kick on out of this period.
Yeah.
tough. It's tough. It's a tough run, and it's come at a good time because they're all the games at home and we need to win them. But it's come at a bad time because we're in a bit of a slump. The question is, can we pull ourselves out of it? And that's the key for us. Yeah. United, obviously, you've got Burnley, followed by Liverpool, followed by Fulham. You'll be looking at that. If I was Ollie and I was United, you're sitting together there in your team talk and you're looking at those games and saying, we can win all 3 of these games. And if we do, we find ourselves absolutely flying. And no one would have expected that of us. No one would have, a couple of weeks ago, no one would have thought we'd been in this position. No. And I'm like, I feel like I'm glorifying United here, which is not what I want to do. But if you look at it from their perspective, they're going to have a massive grin on their face and just think, we've got an absolute cracker of a chance here to really kick on this season.
Yeah. Not bad for a Norwegian PE teacher, is it?
Not bad for a PE teacher at all. Right, well, we'll look more closer at those next week. Elsewhere in the world, UFC, we haven't actually got any cards to review or preview this week, which gives us a chance, I guess, look at the bigger picture. Fight Island's 10 days away, just around the corner. January 16th is the first card. But, and I don't want to, I'm not going to dig into the actual cards themselves, but I think once again the UFC is about to kick off into another huge year. They've just come off the back of it, an incredible one where they led the way in getting sport back on the TV and keeping everyone entertained and showing how it can be done and just delivering week on week. Back to Fight Island, 3 back-to-back events, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, culminating in McGregor-Poirier, which is unreal. We get to see Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar, which is huge. Magne and Chiesa is headlining the Wednesday card. We've also got Dan Hooker, obviously New Zealand native that we'll all get behind, fighting Michael Chandler. Again, huge, but he's welcoming Michael Chandler to the UFC. Incredible run of cards, and it's just something awesome to look forward to, and I can't wait to break these cards down as more and more of them get revealed. One thing I will say about those, if you look on the UFC official website and you try and break down the cards and see who's on there, they're not committing to an awful lot. There's not many fights actually up on the schedule yet, and I think they're still trying to figure out. People have got fights, but I think they're expecting lots of them to drop off. So it'll be interesting as these cards get closer to see how things get matched and changed. And as ever in the UFC at this point, you've got to stay ready. There'll be so many people who will call up at the last minute, jump on a plane. Who wants to fight? Yeah, I'm up for it. Happy days. I think you'll see a lot of that because they're not committing to a lot of fights on these cards, which I think is interesting. Yeah. Is there anything you're looking forward to particularly out of those events?
McGregor-Poirier. I think anyone that doesn't enjoy, whether you like him or not, if you don't enjoy the spectacle and the sporting spectacle of Conor McGregor, there's something wrong with you in this game because
no one does it better.
I wasn't around in that era, but I would imagine it's very similar to Mike Tyson in his heyday. Every time Mike Tyson was fighting, the world stops.
The world stops, eh? Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It's a sporting spectacle. It's Muhammad Ali back in the day. Everybody knows that Conor. Yeah. Whether you're a UFC fan or not, everybody knows Conor McGregor is fighting on.
Do we know if they'll have fans yet?
I've not heard anything yet, but I'd like to think when the cash cow's in town on the Fight Island.
I'm sure the UFC would love to have it because they can, they're out there in Abu Dhabi. There's a lot of money rolling around there. Yeah. They'll be able to charge out their ears for tickets to see McGregor fights. I'm sure they'll try their best to do it. They haven't really said much yet, and maybe it'll just be in locals, special guests or whatever. They try it. They've got to be so careful though as well with all the COVID restrictions and that. You just there will be nothing worse than to get one of these events shut down. They've done so well. They went through a year where they've managed to keep that bubble intact. It would be a real shame if they decided to let fans in and it fell to bits.
And the added danger, like you say, is announcing that they've got fans, and then millions of people from the UK and Ireland fly over, and it doesn't set a good COVID. It doesn't set a good. Certainly when they're on the way back, it doesn't set a good impression.
I think it would just be locals, wouldn't it? I don't think they would allow anyone into the bubble that wasn't kind of already in it of a sense.
But the Irish will find the loopholes. If Conor McGregor's there,
the Irish flags everywhere. Yeah. Like, have they got in? Yeah, absolutely. It's worth noting as well that because we always bang on this podcast, me in particular, our boy Leon Edwards is once again off the card.
Yeah.
This time not due to it, nothing to, it wasn't his fault. Chimaev pulled out. He had COVID, didn't recover in time, problems with his lungs or whatever. So he's pulled off. I believe he did campaign to get another fight. He wanted to stay on the card. Obviously, he's not fought. He's not fought for a year, has he?
No.
He was desperate to fight, and I think he's desperate to get active now in the UFC. I think he knows that there's pressure on him there, isn't there? And with these cuts looming as well, I think he wants to be able to perform.
Yeah.
So I think he offered to fight anyone. I'm not sure if anybody stepped up. I think he asked to fight Magne, but they kept him in case on the card.
He offered Magne or Chiesa, either or. But they seem to have gone ahead with that one. And
unfortunately for Edwards, for me, he seems to be offered up. He's being offered up as the sacrificial lamb to Chimaev. I think they're going to keep that fight on there because Leon's the perfect person to, one, test Chimaev, and two, they think he can win. It's a perfect kind of platform to build Chimaev on, and I think they're going to keep it. I think they're going to keep Leon Edwards in that fight. I don't think Edwards is going to be disappointed with that, but it's not ideal. He could have fought anyone there, couldn't he? Mm-hmm. I'd have loved to have seen Wonderboy step up and fight him, but obviously he's with his knee injury. It's not going to happen. So I guess we'll see that probably early to mid next year now. I don't think Leon's going to get his way out of it, unfortunately for him. No. But yeah, wish him all the best because I think he deserves better, in all honesty. Now, to finish the podcast, last year was a mad year in the UFC. Mm-hmm. One thing that came out of it, like an interesting little stat, was that no champion lost the belt. Everyone defended the belt. I think pretty much everyone defended it at least once. No one lost it. No belts changed hands, which is weird. That doesn't often happen. And one reason for that is that the champions weren't fighting as often as they used to. That they didn't do any of the larger spectacle fights because they didn't have any fans. So they fought less times than they normally would. Yeah. It was really the year of the up-and-comer, wasn't it? It was the year of your Kevin Hollands. It was the year of your Chimaevs. It was the who's ready, who's game, who wants to fight back-to-back. It was their year. I think, COVID, all things going well with COVID and no other big hiccups. I think 2021 will be the year where the belts start to change hands a bit. I think there'll be movement at the top of the divisions. Now that these up-and-comers have positioned themselves there now to kick on and challenge for belts, there's going to be a lot of hot competition at the top, and I think we might start to see movement, jumping weight classes, interim titles taking place. And I think it's a good little... while there's nothing going on now, it's good for us to, put some bold predictions on the table, put our neck on the line, and maybe put a crate of beer on the line. Maybe see who gets the most right here before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Are you up for it?
I'm up for it. Sign me up.
We'll start with the women.
Okay.
The women's featherweight division. Current belt holder is Amanda Nunes. She's got a fight scheduled against Megan Anderson. It was supposed to be in December, wasn't it? I think it's again now in February, March this year. So what we'll do, who will hold these belts December 31st, 2021.
Okay.
So women's featherweight, who will hold that belt?
Amanda Nunes will beat Megan Anderson.
Yep.
And then Dana will say, just keep that belt at home and you won't need to defend that ever again.
Put it on your mantelpiece.
Put it on the mantelpiece and we'll just get rid of that division.
Yeah, you reckon it's toast for that division?
I just think it's Nunes one defence and then that's it.
Yeah. I agree. It's a bit of a boring one. I can't argue with that. I think Nunes pretty much walks through Megan Anderson. Unfortunately, sorry Megan. Mm-hmm. Again, Aussie native, but I don't think she's the test for Nunes, and there's nobody else really in that division. No. I think Nunes will be able to turn aside somewhere else, and they'll shut off that. Women's bantamweight division.
Nunes again.
Yep.
I think there will be a title eliminator of Holm versus Durandamy to run that back from a couple of years ago when it was a bit contentious, hitting after the bell and all that.
Yep.
So I think Holm versus Durandamy, title eliminator. The rematch gets Nunes again, and then Nunes has beaten both, and Nunes will just beat him again.
Holly Holmes looked great in her last fight.
Yeah.
I thought she looked really probably the best I've seen her since the hype of around Ronda Rousey and stuff like that. I thought she looked really good. And it builds an interesting narrative. Like you say, you can have that title eliminator, and then you can kind of earn the rematch, because we have seen it, but you can earn the rematch with Nunes. But I have to agree, I don't think she beats Nunes, and I think Nunes holds onto that belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's Nunes' 2 defences, because she's done 1 belt.
Yep.
Do it, and then she's done.
Yeah.
For this year.
Yeah, that'll probably be it. I don't think she'll fight, especially being a new mother as well.
Yeah.
I don't think she'll fight too many more times than that, if at all. This is where it gets interesting for me. Women's flyweight division. Valentina, current champ, has been a champ for a little while. Quite a few defences under her belt already. So you would say that for the first time, really, in her last fight, she was tested, I suppose. Lost a round, maybe. Does she hold the belt this year?
No.
Ooh. Who takes that belt?
Zhang.
Yeah, Weili Zhang. Do you think she comes up from strawweight?
Yes. So I think it's Shevchenko will fight Andrade first this year.
Right.
Shevchenko will beat Andrade.
Yep.
And then Zhang would have moved up, and I'll explain Zhang's kind of pathway in a minute.
Next. Should have gone the other way, shouldn't we?
Yeah, no, it's all right. But Shevchenko then fights Zhang. Zhang beats Shevchenko. So then she gets the flyweight belt.
I've written the same thing down. I think Weili Zhang comes up at some point this year, and I think there'll probably be a bit of a narrative before that, but I do think she comes up, and I think she'll probably fight, if it's possible again, we don't know. In an ideal world, I think she would fight Valentina in China or in Russia.
Yeah.
Won't be in the States, being one of those home turfs. And I think she beats Valentina.
And what I will say is, because Zhang beats Valentina, Shevchenko will say, well, I'm going up. And then in 2022, there could be a new competitor for Nunes for her belt.
Because they fought before as well, and there's a narrative there.
Before.
Yeah, so there's a third fight on the table for them there.
And then that'll be a new challenge, because Shevchenko would have lost the belt, and she goes, right, well, I want to fight the old enemy, and I'll move up. Yeah,
there's a narrative there, and that definitely works. Women's strawweight division. This is probably the most competitive division, out of all of them.
Yeah.
As you've seen, there's not a lot of contenders, I think, that can really touch the champs, aside from in the strawweight division. Yeah, come the 31st of December, who's your strawweight champ?
Okay. So, 2 things I'll say is Zhang.
Right.
So she'll hold both belts.
Yep.
However, if Zhang gives up the belt, because she moves up, and there's an interim, it'll surprise you.
Ooh.
But I am going to say Tatiana Suarez.
Oh, okay, right. I didn't see that one coming.
Will be interim champion. And I've got the pathway. So
here we go.
I think that we will have, first of all, Zhang will fight Rose or Esparza first thing this year.
The Rose fight's the next fight for me.
Yeah. Then that's when Zhang wins and moves up. So she beats Rose or Esparza, and then she's moved up, right?
Yep.
But then as this is happening, you'll have Jan versus Joanna.
Yep.
Rose, if she loses, which she probably would, then it'll be Rose versus Esparza, probably.
Yep.
Okay. And then Dern is on the rise.
Yep.
As Tatiana Suarez comes back from her neck injury. Now, Tatiana Suarez beat Gedalia and Nina Ansaroff in her last 2. She's undefeated.
Right.
So she automatically has to go in at like 3 or 4, automatically, because who she beat last.
Yep.
So, if Dern's on the up, I think Tatiana Suarez will catch Dern. So, that means that the interim fight eliminator will be Rose, because I think she beats Esparza. I think Joanna beats Jan, so it's Rose versus Joanna 2.
Yeah, 3.
3?
Is it 3? They fought twice, haven't they?
No, and she fought Andrade twice.
I thought she'd fought.
No, Rose beat Joanna for the belt when it was like 9-1, when she'd never would have. Or maybe she defended against
I'm pretty sure
she
she
maybe,
beat her
maybe 3. Okay, so maybe it's Rose, Joanna, let's say, is a rematch again. And then you've got Dern versus Tatiana Suarez. And the 2 of those fighters will be a title eliminator. So I'm looking at Rose versus Tatiana Suarez for the interim championship if Zhang lets it go. And I'm going to say Suarez to beat Rose.
All right. And we're on the same page.
Right.
The next fight for me is Zhang Rose. I think Zhang beats Rose purely through power and the fact that Rose is very hittable.
Yeah.
I think she can get away with that in certain fights, Rose, but I think when she comes up against Zhang, she'll be in trouble. But then, when I think Zhang will then look at it and be like, right, I've kind of taken this division out, I've got to go up, which will leave an interim belt there for the taking throughout the year, and there's got to be certain moving parts that play out. My players in there, I didn't have Tatiana Suarez, and maybe I've overlooked that a little bit with a neck injury, but I had Dern as a player.
Yep.
She probably needs to win another fight first before she's in the mix. But if she's matched up well, she'll be there or thereabouts.
That's why I thought Dern and Suarez later on in the year, because that gives Tatiana time to heal.
Yeah, quite possibly.
And then Dern's beat someone kind of in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
And then
there's plenty of people there as well.
And then them two,
Joanna's obviously in the mix. She'll be keen to fight. Looked great in her last fight, competitive against Zhang, which kind of makes you think about the Rose matchup as well. Rose beat Joanna twice.
Yeah.
Which makes you think that the Zhang matchup might be competitive. Who knows? Styles make fights. I'm not sure. The one we're overlooking a little bit is Amanda Ribas. Is there or thereabouts? She fights on Fight Island. I think she's on the. I think she's on the McGregor card.
Yeah, she is.
So we'll see the outcome of that, because she's looked incredible in the last couple of fights. And if she can put another good performance again, she's going to be in that mix. And her and Dern, I seem to be on a similar path, and you might see them come to the top. So, but I think come the end of the year, when it all plays out, I think Rose will have another push for the title, but I think that'll be it. And I think she might well win the interim title by the end of the year. But then I think she'll hang her gloves up. Yeah. I don't think she'll be around for much longer. But I think that she would relish another contest with Joanna. And that could well be for that interim title before the end of the year. Okay. So I'm going to say Zhang technically holds the belt unless she gives it up, which I don't think she will. She'll want to have 2 belts. It just depends how quickly that goes throughout the year. If so, Rose will be an interim champion, I think.
I think from the UFC box office point of view, the market, if Zhang does vacate, I think they would pray for Yan to win the belt and then have Zhang champion of that division, Yan the champion of the other, and have 2 Chinese females in China.
Yeah, true.
But that's just a one-off fight type of thing. But if it plays out that way, if Yan's close, if they do a Joanna or anything, or she's a title eliminator, I think they're going, come on.
Dana's rubbing his hands together, isn't he?
Yeah.
All right, men's divisions. We'll start at the bottom. So flyweight. This was a division that was almost outlawed. It was almost cut, wasn't it? Probably a year ago, maybe just over a year ago. Yeah. It's been rejuvenated this year. Firstly, by having a different champ other than DJ. But Figueiredo's really kind of captured the attention of that division now, and he's had some great fights, great defences. Does he hold the belt by the end of this year?
I believe Figueiredo does.
You think Figueiredo holds the belt? Right, okay, cool. There's a lot of competitors in that division.
Fights twice.
You think he'll fight twice this year? Right. First one's obviously against Moreno.
Moreno rematch.
Right.
That he wins.
You think he wins that?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, Moreno's good, and I know he's a good fighter. But I just feel as though, like I said last time to yourself, I think the point deduction really changed the fight.
Yeah, right, okay.
And it was a draw, but you take the point away and Figueiredo wins.
Okay. That's good, we've got a different one. This is good. Okay.
And then, he beats Moreno.
Yep.
And then middle to late year, depending if they do another Fight Island, because I've had to factor in with a lot of these internationals if there's another Fight Island.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? We don't know how this year is going to play out.
I think these next defence, which he does get past, is Figueiredo versus Garbrandt.
You think Garbrandt's still going to go down?
Yes.
Right. I don't.
Okay.
I like this though.
Okay. Who's your champion?
My champion is December 31st, 2021 is Brandon Royval.
Oh, okay.
I have been really impressed with him.
Yeah.
He obviously fought Moreno last, who just fought the champ.
Yeah.
Ran him close. It was a bit back and forth fight, and he lost in the end, but he did dislocate his shoulder in kind of the dying seconds. He's real young, and I think if he gets another, I think he might fight a few times this year. He seems like the type that if he can keep himself fit and healthy, avoid COVID problems, avoid injuries, I think he'll fight a few times this year. And I think the way the division plays out, I actually think Moreno beats Figueiredo in the rematch.
Okay.
I think that belt in the flyweight division is going to change hands a couple of times this year, which is exactly what the division needs. It doesn't need another DJ, unfortunately. And I think the belt will change hands, and I think Moreno will win it, but he won't hold it. And I think by the end of the year, Brandon Royval will be more experienced, and I think he'll hold that belt. I'm not quite sure how he gets it.
Yeah, okay.
It's hard to say because there's a lot of competitors in that division.
Yeah.
And because I don't think anyone's going to hold it, I'm not sure how it will play out. But I think by the end of the year, Royval is your champ.
Okay.
So it's a bit out there, that one, but I really like him, and I think he's got all the tools. He's a bit wild, and I rate him.
Okay.
Bantamweight. This is another incredible division right now. Absolutely stacked. Petr Yan holds the belt currently. Yeah, Petr Yan holds the belt. He's defended it. Has he defended it once so far, or has he just won it? Defended it against Aldo. Yeah, so he won it. Defended it against Aldo. Who's your bantamweight champ?
My prediction is Petr Yan will be the champion at the end.
Right.
Because he only fights once.
Okay.
And because there's too many names at the moment in the bantamweight division that need to play out before things happen. And I think it'll be an international fighter, Petr Yan. So all the champions are going to fight at least maybe, let's say twice. Some will fight once. And I think Petr Yan will beat Aljamain Sterling.
That's the next fight to make, isn't it?
And then he'll sit tight. And then we'll see Sandhagen versus Edgar, which is booked. I think we'll see a return of TJ Dillashaw versus Aldo.
Yep.
Then that can play out, and then I can see that there's potentially depending on what Garbrandt does, by the way, because there is the Garbrandt narrative with Dillashaw of avenging the loss.
Yep.
Given the PED stuff that has happened, but I'm looking at a Sandhagen/Dillashaw title eliminator towards the end of the year. Because I'm saying Garbrandt's obviously down the other one. So Sandhagen versus Dillashaw title eliminator towards the end of the year, and then we'll get Yan versus Dillashaw early 2022. So I will say Yan.
Petr Yan.
Yeah.
It will be different again. I like it. And again, the reason I said I didn't think Garbrandt would be in the flyweight division is because I think he will be our bantamweight champ come the end of the year.
Okay.
Again, depending on a lot of things. If he can stay physically and mentally fit, I don't like him, but I rate him.
Yeah.
He's got incredibly fast hands, and he's got incredible power. He's going to cause a lot of people in that division a lot of problems. He's big for the division as well. I think you're exactly right. There's a lot of players in that division, which there's a lot of things that need to play out, and there'll be a lot of people calling for title shots. Not many of them are going to get it this year. We're forgetting the outsider there of Sean O'Malley, who's going to have to, who, if he can put performances together, will be on a rocket ship towards a title shot, but I don't think he's going to get it this year. Even if he puts wins together, there's too many people ahead of him. TJ Dillashaw returning is really interesting because we don't know how, he looked incredible before he left, but he was on drugs. So I don't know how good he is. There's a narrative that plays out there between Aldo and somehow finding its way back towards, we're going back 5 years to Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, title eliminator, I think probably down the line. But it really depends on if Garbrandt can stay fit, I think.
Yeah.
And the next question is, how does Yan lose it? And I think that Aljamain Sterling poses a big problem for Petr Yan. And again, similar to this flyweight division, I think you're going to see the belt change hands once or twice this year. And I think you might be right, though, that Yan being an international fighter, we won't see him fight very often. And if he does have any injuries or things like that, because you've got so many people in that division ready and waiting to go, you might see him lose the belt that way or not get a chance to defend it in the same way he normally would. So Cody Garbrandt for me.
Do you think the UFC would prefer Dillashaw bantamweight and Garbrandt flyweight, and then the rematch down the track happens when they've both got the belt?
No, because I think it's too risky with weight cuts.
Yeah.
I don't think. I just. Well, you've already seen. Garbrandt tried to. Garbrandt tried to go down, didn't he? And it didn't. He dropped out, but I'm assuming it's because he couldn't make the weight. A lot of people want that fast. They want the fast path to the title, which is what he was trying to do by going down there. He's doing something different. So fair play to him, but I just don't think he needs to do it. And he needs to just bide his time. He doesn't need to have the belt straight away.
Would you say I'm right there with a Dillashaw Aldo? Because Dillashaw keeps talking about he wants a title shot straight away. And it's like, you can't go from PEDs to title shot after 2 years, unfortunately.
He'll get one quickly if he comes back in and looks the way he looked when he left. Yeah. You've got to go through a big name first. Aldo's perfect. He's fought the champ. He's been up there. I think that's
coming in on a win.
Yeah. I think that's perfect for Dillashaw, and we'll see how good he is. We might see Dillashaw come back in whether it be February, March, or whatever, and we might be changing this opinion to be like Dillashaw's going to be champ because he did look incredible. He looked unstoppable for a short period there. So that's it. Yeah, that one's interesting. Featherweight, another great division, another stark division at the top. Current champ, Aussie Volkanovski. He's fought twice against Holloway now. First one, fairly solid decision. Second one, fairly contentious. Who's your champ?
Brian Ortega is my champion. Unfortunately, I'm going against Volkanovski because I do love Volkanovski, but I think Holloway versus Keita, Holloway wins. Volkanovski versus Ortega, Ortega wins. And then you've got the potential Holloway, Volkanovski potentially to run it back a third time as a title eliminator.
Yep.
And then we might even see Volkanovski and Ortega run it back. Or towards the end of the year, we'll see Ortega versus Holloway 2. Ortega gets past Holloway by going back to a different game plan of what went drastically wrong in the first place. And I think we'll see some groundwork from Ortega. Yep. So I'm anticipating an Ortega max by the end of the year, and Ortega survives, Ortega champion.
Tell me, when did Volkanovski lose his belt? When does he lose his belt? Does
Ortega beats him.
Right. So Ortega's champ and defends.
Volkanovski's first fight this year will be Ortega, and Ortega wins.
Yeah. And then keeps the belt throughout the year.
Yeah, and then it'll be either you've got to factor in if it's a Volkanovski, you've got some, Yair's out, so you're thinking you got Zabits in there. So Volkanovski then finds himself in the
mix.
Keita, Volkanovski, that what they've got to figure out, and then you can't go kind of Holloway straight to Ortega then, because Volkanovski will say, "Hang on a minute, he's not beat me."
Yeah.
So if I've lost the belt, how can he jump me?
Yeah. Okay.
So then I think we could see a Holloway Volkanovski 3, which then leads to a rematch with Ortega.
Makes a lot of sense. I agree with it. I've also got Brian Ortega as our champ. I feel like we always, and everyone does the same, we underestimate Volkanovski.
Yeah.
But when you close your eyes and you think about those two, I just think Brian Ortega's massive. There's this massive size and power difference there, and if he's got the right game plan, if he's disciplined in the way he was in his last fight, he just looked unstoppable. I don't see anyone beat that Brian Ortega I saw then. Nobody beats him in that division.
And if that was Ortega, just as a stand-up fighter, you'd say, no one will beat him. Yeah. But he's got the added thing of if it's going against the tide,
he pulls his jiu-jitsu out the bag.
He's got a submission in his locker.
It's an interesting division again, though. I do think Brian Ortega comes out as the champ, and I think that narrative between a rematch with Holloway down the line, he's got to come through Keita first, which is this next fight on Fire Island will define what happens to Max Holloway. Yeah. If he loses, he's out the mix. He's down the division. You might see him move away just to keep. He might go up a weight to keep it interesting. You've got Zabit there. Who, it feels like he's not fought in forever. He was hot shit for a long time. I don't know how good he is at this point. I don't know I don't know where he lines up with the top 5 kind of thing. We'll find out this year, I'm sure, where he sits. But I'm not willing to put it out there that he'll be the champ. I'm not sure. The other one for me to watch would be Dan Ige as well. I think skill-wise, probably not on the same level as your Brian Ortegas, your Volkanovski, your Holloway's, but he's got a toughness level which is on par with anyone in the UFC. And I think he's able to grind out decision wins against a lot of people. Don't think he'll be champ, but I think he'll be there or thereabouts. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, Ige had a title shot, possibly in the mix there, depending on how Holloway plays out. So he's one to watch, I think. But Brian Ortega, yeah. Lightweight division. This one's absolute, just unreal. It's death row, isn't it? Anyone in that top 10, depending on how things play out. And there's a lot of politics in this division. With your McGregors, with your Khabibs, it's hard for us to make a prediction now a year ahead because I have no idea what the likes of Khabib or the likes of Conor want. I don't know what they want to do, and they hold a lot of power. This division doesn't play out as other divisions do, in my opinion. But who's your champ and how?
My champ is Conor McGregor.
Right, okay.
So McGregor versus Poirier, McGregor wins.
Yeah.
Chandler versus Hooker, Chandler wins.
Yep.
Then the belt's not changed at this point, by the way, because Khabib comes out of retirement and fights George St. Pierre.
For the lightweight belt.
For the lightweight belt.
Okay.
Which, regardless of who wins, they're giving it back.
I like that, yeah, okay.
So nothing happens.
Yep.
So Khabib wins, GSP wins, and then they go, Dana, there's the belt.
Yep.
And then that's it then. But then you've got Gaethje versus Oliveira that fight. Conor McGregor goes, I want to be active, I don't want to sit around. Michael Chandler, you beat Hooker, do you fancy it? So he'll
There's so many ways this can play out.
So McGregor then fights Chandler just as a bit of a mid-year, the season that he didn't get last year.
News. If Chandler comes through Hooker, if Chandler comes through Hooker, the people would want to see Chandler McGregor because they both got the gift of the gab.
And that'll be the season that McGregor didn't have.
Yep.
So he'll go, right, well, this is my second fight of the year. I'll fight Chandler. I'll get past Chandler. By that point, Gaethje and Oliveira would have fought. And then at the end of the year, for the belt, for the interim belt, we will see Conor McGregor versus Justin Gaethje for the title, which McGregor beats Gaethje.
So you think it takes the year to get that through? Okay.
Yes. And I think we'll get the champion at the end of the year, which will be Conor McGregor.
Right.
So a McGregor dovetail at the start of the year.
I had a different path. But what you said about the Khabib, Gaethje fighting for the belt, but then giving up the belt.
GSP, you mean?
Khabib, Gaethje. Khabib, GSP fighting for the belt, then giving up the belt is interesting. And I definitely think that could happen, and that ruins my narrative, I think.
Okay. Who's your champion?
The way I had it in my head, without factoring in GSP and Khabib, I had Charles Oliveira as the champion at the end of the year. I think we see, I agree, we see McGregor Poirier, which McGregor wins. I think we see Chandler Hooker this weekend, which I think Hooker wins. That puts Chandler back a little bit. I think I think there'll be a bit of a reality check for how good Chandler is. Okay. I think the winner, I think Charles Oliveira will then fight McGregor, which I think is really interesting, but it might be later on in the year. I think we'll lower down the division as this plays out. I think we're going to see RDA fight Gaethje.
Right.
I think RDA deserves to be higher up and be in the mix more than most, I think, and I think he's a little bit forgotten about. I think you'll see him fight Gaethje. I'm not quite sure how that one goes. So there's a few ways that can play out. The reason... You've got me down myself now. I've said this now. The reason I had Oliveira as a title contender at the end of the year was because... Sorry, as a title holder at the end of the year was because I felt that this Poirier-McGregor might end up with a belt on the line, even at the very last minute. That doesn't factor in what Khabib and GSP might do. So I thought we'd have Conor as a champ throughout the year, and he's going to defend it against maybe a Hooker. I don't think Conor McGregor will be in the lightweight division at the end of the year, which is why I don't think he'll be the champ. I think he would be.
Okay.
I think he'll probably relinquish that belt, and I think you'll probably see Conor as a welterweight before the end of this year.
Okay.
I don't think he's about holding and defending belts. I think he's about fights that interest people or mean something. So I don't think he'll be around in the lightweight division. And I think when all the dust settles, Olivier, aside from McGregor, is probably the best in that division.
Okay.
And I think he'll hold the belt.
Okay.
But it's hard to know. But yeah, you pissed on me plans by throwing the GSP Khabib into the mix there, because I think that's a very plausible narrative how that plays out. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mm.
Welterweight is another interesting division. Currently, Usman is the champion.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a fight rescheduled now for Burns, Feb, 13th of Feb, something like that. And to be honest, I'm not asked about it, if I'm entirely honest. And I don't think the UFC are either. I think the UFC are desperate for Usman not to be the champ because he balls the pants off everyone, personally. Who's your champ in the welterweight division?
Khamzat Chimaev is my champion.
Yep.
So, Usman versus Burns. Usman wins. I'm still set. I've got my heart set on Kobe versus Masvidal being the tough coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see Kobe versus Masvidal happen, which will be fight of the year, by the way.
Yeah,
and
right.
Masvidal wins.
Right. Ooh, okay.
Now, so this will be around like March or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then it will be... Sorry, and at the same time, Masvidal and Kobe fights, Chimaev will fight Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Chimaev beats Edwards. And then it will be Chimaev versus Masvidal, International Fight Week. And then Chimaev beats Masvidal. And then you've got others that can fight then. So you've got Kobe versus Burns, Kobe versus Edwards. Them three can kind of pick between themselves when they're fighting in the background. And then at the end of the year, Chimaev will want to fight at least 3 times. And that means Usman's have fought twice then, so at the start and at the end of the year. And it will be Usman versus Chimaev for the belt.
So you think Usman keeps hold of the belt until he fights Chimaev?
Yes, at the end of the year. Because Usman is only fighting Burns and then Chimaev.
Right. Ooh.
Because Masvidal, all the hype will be on Masvidal when he beats Kobe. And then Chimaev at the time will beat Edwards and go, I smashed this guy.
Yeah.
And Masvidal will go, all right then. And then Chimaev will get past Masvidal in the middle of the year and he goes, oh, well, smash another one, brother. Title fight at the end of the year. And it'll be Usman versus Chimaev at the end of the year. And Chimaev goes, I'll have that belt. I'll smash it. Who's next?
Yeah.
Who's next, brother?
I agree with the narrative. I also have Chimaev being the champ at the end of the year. There's a few reasons why, and I agree with what you said. I think what we're going to see in the welterweight division is Chimaev going for a belt and everybody else sorting out beefs. Everyone else is doing BMFs and just fighting for the spectacle of like tough coaches. You're going to have Diaz in there somewhere. You might see I think what could happen is that you'll see McGregor hold a lightweight title, ditch it, come up and fight Diaz at 170. I think there's a bunch of people there, your Masvidal, your Colby, McGregor, Diaz, who are going to start to fight out just beefs in the division. And I think they're interesting fights that they don't need a belt. They're just going to be big money fights and they'll be around BMFs or whatever you want to call it. In the background then, you've got Chimaev running through everyone and smashing them to bits. He's going to smash Leon Edwards. Unfortunately, he is going to smash Leon Edwards. He's then probably going to be on a rocket ship. I think you might find him in a title shot sooner rather than later. I think whoever wins the Usman Burns fight, which it's hard to see Usman losing because he's very good at what he does, but he's just boring as shit. Mm-hmm. And I think UFC are going to want to get that belt off Usman as quickly as possible. And you might see Khamzat holding it probably earlier. It might even be around the International Fight Week time if Usman wins and can rebound quick enough.
Yeah.
You might see that happen then. He's got a belt. And then you're probably going to see Chimaev try and get the middleweight one as well. Okay. I think at the same time. Meanwhile, in the background, everyone's fighting each other, but not asked about the belt. I think the only other person who might be asked about the belt is Wonderboy. It's the only, and you might well see a Wonderboy Chimaev title defense at some point back end of the year, which Chimaev wins. I think he keeps holding that belt.
Okay.
There's a lot going on in that division, but I don't think anyone's that asked about the belt.
Yeah, okay.
To be honest with you, apart from Chimaev.
Yeah.
And I also think because Chimaev is the one that's holding it and has got it, people will find a million reasons not to fight for it. So you call out your Diaz's, you call out your McGregor's, you sort those beefs.
The reason why I've put Chimaev and Masvidal in the middle of the year,
I love
International
it.
Fight Week, is because I don't think you can go from Chimaev to Usman. Certainly if Masvidal beats Colby, I don't think you can go from Chimaev to Usman without Masvidal. Or so I don't think you go from Chimaev to Usman without missing Colby or Masvidal out.
Yeah, right.
And I think Chimaev will be up to fighting both of them anyway, and Masvidal will be like, yeah, I'll fight. Full camp, yeah. And then I think Masvidal then deserves the shot. Like, if he beats Chimaev, Masvidal, he deserves Usman at the end of the year on the full camp that we never got to see. So that's why I think that's that title eliminator.
It's so hard. It's so interesting because I have no idea how this is going to play out. I just think people are going to avoid Hamzat like the plague.
Yeah.
And if you can find another credible excuse to fight somebody else, you will.
Yeah.
I don't think Masvidal beats Colby, to be honest with you.
Do you know?
Colby does my frigging head in, but he's very good.
Yeah.
He's very, very good.
I think both are as good as it. I think that's why I said fight of the year.
I just saw how ineffective Masvidal was against. I know it was very, very short notice, but he was entirely ineffective against the wrestler. And I'm sure he's been drilling wrestling until the cows come home this year, Masvidal. But I think there's a difference between a lifelong wrestler and someone who's just drilled it for a couple of training camps. And Colby can scrap as well.
I know.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think we're more likely to see the Rock'em Sock'em robots with Colby and Masvidal. Because I think of the hatred, I think it'll be emotion where Colby's like, I know I can wrestle him, but I'm just going to knock his head off.
I don't think he will. I think Masvidal will hold that happens, but I think Colby will just want to prove he's better than him.
Yeah.
And if he can just, there's the same thing of like you could stand there and scrap with someone, but he runs a risk of being knocked out there. Masvidal's capable of doing that, but I think there's also a power in Colby just grinding on him for 5 rounds, and it might not be as exciting a fight as you want, but I think it'll be that type of thing where Colby has complete control, and he'll be turning to the cameras and smiling and just be like, this bum, look at this bum, you can't do anything. I think that's the type of fight you're going to get from Colby, but it's super interesting. Middleweight division, again, another one where there's a lot of players at the top. Current champ is Izzy, who we already know is going up to challenge for the light heavyweight. Mm-hmm. Who's your middleweight champ at the end of the year?
Israel.
Now, has he gone up and come back down, or does he just still hold it?
He still holds it.
Okay, so we're going to play out some interims probably in the meantime.
Yeah, we're going to see Whittaker versus Vettori. We're going to see Costa versus Cannonier, and then Till versus Hermansson, which we didn't get this year.
Yep. What about Kevin Holland?
And Kevin Holland
Big Kev
is very much in the with. I would say I'm looking at. I don't think he's at Whittaker Vettori yet. I think Vettori has jumped up because of that Hermansson thing.
Yep.
And I would say Holland is looking at your Costa, Cannonier, Till, Hermansson. Whether they're losing and he's beating them on the way up, or and I still think there's a couple of fights there to happen. So Izzy, I think, holds by. It all depends. I would say about a Whittaker Izzy 2.
When that plays out, if that plays out.
But I will speak about Izzy next. So I've got to factor in other things there as well. Yeah. So
there's so much to factor in.
But I'm saying Izzy, yeah. Who's your champion?
Chimaev.
I think
Chimaev's
that quickly?
Yeah. Because I think the way in my head it played out in the welterweight division, I think he's on a rocket ship, and I think he'll have that welterweight belt sooner rather than later. It might well be by the turn of the summer, so kind of July, he'll have the welterweight belt already, and there'll be a million other things playing out that division, and he'll just want to fight. And I think they might send him up to the middleweight division for one fight, probably back end back end of the year. Again, this is on the premise that he fights like he has in the past, and he just wants to go. Once he's got that welterweight belt, he'll want to hold 2, and I think he'll want to hold it pretty quick. And I think UFC will just be, yeah, okay, cool. I don't know who he'll get. It depends how the division plays out. He might well get someone like a Whittaker. He might well get a Darren Till. It depends on how the first fight, how everyone's first fight of the year goes. They might give him that. By the back end of the year, he'll be calling for Izzy to come back and fight for his belt.
Yeah.
And I think he'll beat Adesanya at middleweight at the end of the year. And I think you end the year with, he's got 2 belts.
Chimaev does.
Chimaev has 2 belts.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Light heavyweight.
Israel Adesanya.
I also had Adesanya.
So I'm saying Izzy's 2.
Do you think he's got 2
belts?
Holds 2 belts there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he fight, and you've got to be careful with the middleweight, because the problem that I've got here with Izzy is that he fights Jan in March, Izzy wins. So then, does he defend the middleweight, or does he give someone in the light heavyweight a defence, i.e. Glover, as an easy win?
Yeah.
So then I think I've got Izzy really fighting, probably not even defend the middleweight. And then next year it'll be an early Australia card. I've got Whittaker and Izzy down for a 2022 as a fight to say, mate, if you're not defending it, because he's got the other belt.
Yeah.
So I've got Izzy having 2 belts, and he might not even defend the middleweight, as funny as it sounds, because there's too many fights to
there's
happen,
enough to sort out, isn't
there? Before who's there, because Izzy's beat them all.
Yeah.
Well, not all, but he's beat.
It's clear that,
Yeah, so it's kind of. So I think he's going to chase the other division.
Right.
While that sorts itself.
Yeah.
And then Dan will say, right, what are you doing with this, mate? Are you having 2 or are you having 1? So I'm going to say Izzy light heavyweight.
I've got Izzy being light heavyweight, but mainly because he hasn't lost it. He's still holding it. But I think what he might do, I think he'll beat Jan. I think he'll defend it against someone, because I think he'll want the legacy of, I won it and I defended it.
Glover, I think, is an easy, because he was moaning about not getting a title shot, wasn't he? He's number 1
Possibly, someone like that. He'll defend it. I think he'll be hoping to entice John Jones down, but I don't think it'll happen. Mm-hmm. And I think he'll be tempted back down to the middleweight division to fight Chimaev.
Okay.
And I think he might lose that fight.
Okay.
I just think Chimaev's going to run through these divisions.
Okay.
And I might be massively overrating him, but I've got, there's a narrative already playing out that he runs through both of these divisions. So you end the year with Izzy being the light heavyweight champion, but technically not being in that division anymore, but I think he'll hold the belt. What he does after the Chimaev, I'm not sure. Heavyweight, to finish off. Mm-hmm. Who's your heavyweight champ?
John Jones.
It's got to be John Jones, isn't it?
I'm saying Ngannou and Miocic 2. Stipe wins. Miocic v Jones. Jones wins and Miocic retires. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the year, Jones defends against Ngannou.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, Israel Adesanya fights Robert Whittaker for the middleweight in Australia, box office. And at the end of 2022, it's Jones versus Israel. Sorry, it's Izzy versus John Jones, and John Jones wants to just get the light heavyweight back. And then Jones can be 2-weight. So it's either Izzy 2-weight or it's John Jones 2-weight.
Sounds good to me.
And that's what I think there. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so sure the John Jones Izzy thing ever plays out. I think it's really hard for John Jones to go up to heavyweight, stay there, win the belt, defend it, and then come back down.
But I think he would expect Izzy to bulk up just as much. If now that he's like heavyweight,
I just don't think Izzy's a light heavyweight. To be honest with you, I think he'll do all right there. He'll get by for a couple of fights, but I don't think he's naturally a light heavyweight. To be honest with you, I think he's a middleweight.
Because I just think Dana White wants Izzy versus John Jones, and if they can both have a belt on each shoulder, I think it's a box office 2020.
Well, it is definitely a box office, without doubt. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Hold the phone. I agree. I think John Jones is your heavyweight champ at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. I think he's a big motivated, and probably a little bit afraid. John Jones is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Going up to that division, he's got that fear back in him, and I think he'll be the champ. I don't think there's no one else in that division or around the top of that division that I think they can challenge John Jones at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, we're looking down the line. Tom Aspinall, he's coming up. But there's no one else there. I think there's people with a lot of power, but no one with the toolkit that John Jones has. Yeah. And I think you'll see him he'll end his career as a heavyweight. I think a very dangerous and dominant heavyweight.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Yeah. Well, I think Izzy and Jones could be. I'm saying 2022, and they both got belts. They both got belts, and then that's the way John Jones can finish off on top, because that's kind of a Khabib GSP situation where they can kind of both win and go, let's give it back, because Izzy I'm going this way, and Jones is like, well, I'm off.
Yeah, I think there's a few people at the minute within the UFC that hold a lot of the cards and hold a lot of the expectation. I think Chimaev's one of them, and I could be massively wrong in how that plays out. Leon Edwards beats him, and then it all falls to bit, and bits of my predictions are down the toilet. Yeah. But there's also a narrative that plays out that he's just on a different level to a lot of people, and he waltzes through the welterweight and the middleweight division, and you then find Izzy having to come back down and defend that, because he'll get under his skin, and he'll say he's the most dominant middleweight. Yeah. And I think Izzy will have to come back down and defend it.
I do like Chimaev, but I don't think
it's the pace that these things happen. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do like Chimaev, but I don't think, from what you want him to do, I don't think he can get both belts this year in that time. Yeah. He could definitely get one, and I've not even got him down. Oh yeah, I've gone down for welterweight. Yeah. But I don't think he can get two in 12 months. But who knows?
I just think he's on a rocket ship.
Yeah, I know.
Who knows? It depends how that. A lot of these things depend on where and when they can do events, doesn't it, as well? If they can get people there, Yeah. It's not easy to get in the States right now. The European fights are going to struggle. So it could, my timeline could be in an ideal world, and it might not play out. Yeah. For the end of the year, but there you go. We're all about doing mad predictions here.
That's it.
And on that bombshell, I guess we end it for this week. Thanks for listening. As always, if you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, give us a like, tell your mates about it, and we'll see you next week when we've got actually some football and some fights to preview.
That's it.
Happy days.